Well, good morning. Do we have any visitors this morning? Where from? Where? Oh, St. Sebastian's. Okay. Is that an island in the Caribbean? No. Anybody else? Over here? Yes. Harwick. Welcome. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you for being with us today. And those of you who are shy, welcome to you too. In the gospel today, Jesus lays out for the first time the concept of the difference or the division or the separation, if you will, of church and state. He lived in a politically charged atmosphere, and the buzz of the time, in his time, was, do you support the Romans or not? The Romans were the occupiers. And it was one of those questions, one of those gotcha questions that people like to ask at news conferences, for which there was, any answer you gave, you would alienate somebody. And so Jesus laid out for us what has become a principle of the way we live, that you need both Caesar and God. You need both state and church. But they are two different things, although there's a symbiosis between them. There's a cooperation between them. And so let's take a moment this morning to look at this and to see what our role is in this business of what do we do with government, what do we do with the church, and how do the two of them fit, and how does it affect you and me? Now, the principle is pretty clear, that you need government for internal protection and for external protection from enemies outside of your boundaries. You need government to regulate commerce, to protect you in all kinds of ways. You need government for roads and for communications and for all kinds of things that we could not possibly do ourselves. So government is a necessary thing, and taxes are a necessary thing. The amount is another question. But the tax is a necessary thing. And it's been taxes have been part of life almost from the beginning. So the argument that Jesus makes is not that there should not be a tax, but that the tax should be paid to its appropriate person for what you get from the government. Then he says, render unto God the things that are God's. Now, God has a tax too. He calls it tithing. He says from the very beginning of Scripture, all the way back to Cain and Abel, that we are supposed to give the first and the best back to God. And you don't give it to God in the sense of, like God doesn't need your chickens and your wheat. But you give it back to God in serving the needs of others. That comes to about 10% of our time, our talent, and our treasure. 10%. Now, if you look at a day, there are 24 hours in a day, right? Yes? Okay. So if you look at a day, that means 2.4 hours should be given to the service of others. And as Catholics, we are called to that kind of service. And the interesting point, and this is where the symbiosis comes in between government and church, is that the better we are at being Catholic, the better we are at following the teachings of Christ, the less government we need. You don't need police if we'd stop killing one another. You don't need police if we'd stop stealing from one another. We don't need more government, we need more morality. We don't need more government, we need people who claim to be Christian to be more so. Why is it that we are fighting battles to get the Ten Commandments out of the courthouses when they aren't in our own houses? Why is it that we're fussing about prayer in school when we don't teach our children to pray? And we don't pray. There is no law in this land that says that your child cannot pray in school. He can, or she can. There's nothing to keep a child from bowing their head in prayer on the bus. There's nothing to keep your child from praying before they eat in the school cafeteria. And unless school cafeteria food has changed, you shouldn't pray.